Fong Donoghue. I'm the owner and founder of the Writer's Ed, which is a college advising company. Before I kind of jump in, I think because we've got a small group, just to get a sense of who everyone is in the room, if you're a coach, if you're a player, I know a few of you, but you wanted to share with our group.
I'm a boys and girls high school coach.
Okay.
I'm the head coach for girls, assistant for boys, and I'm president of the commission.
Great, wonderful.
Brian Bevel's Drury University. I'm the men's and women's coach down there with Katie.
Great.
I'm a rugby player for the Leopard.
Okay. You're a sophomore?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a player and I play for Oshkosh.
Great.
John Harvey, I'm the head coach at Marion University.
Allison Bradfield, I'm the executive director for Rugby Ohio.
Wonderful. So, I mean, we've got definitely kind of a mix of folks that are in here. Before I kind of get in, I have an outline and I have a presentation, but because it's a smaller group, I want to make sure that this session gives you the information that you need on what you came in here for. So, what are your big questions or concerns so that I make sure that I cover that today? Is there anything you came in like, man, I hope Karen really talks about this because I'm really confused about it? Anything?
I just look at rugby like it seems like multiple sport athletes and there's full rides. It seems like there's a full ride for rugby. There's no full ride player.
Yeah.
So I want to know what kind of options are out there. The school to have.
Yeah. Okay,
They're
so
always changing, always popping up. New brand yesterday.
right. Yeah. So
I mean, you try.
like what is scholarship? Are there such things as kind of a full ride and what are the options? Great. You've got some college coaches. I mean, any questions or anything that you wanted to come in and kind of learn about or just kind of see what's happening? Okay. And then
I would like to hear your explanation of all the different divisions, conferences.
oh geez, I know.
I hear you do a really good job.
I know. It is quite a big thing. Okay, all right, so I will get into all of that. And for those of you who don't know, this is just a little bit about me. It's on my website, but just so everyone kind of is on the same page. My role here is as a college counselor. So the rugby piece is a layer on top of that. So there are certainly people out there that I've met that are more kind of agents, you know, that are really focused on just the sports side. Typically in other sports, there might be more counselors or consultants that are more like that. My role is really as overall college counselor through the lens of rugby. So I've been doing this since 2009, also obviously a strong background in the rugby community as a player, as a referee, and now as an educator. And then this picture of this, my husband and my daughter. My daughter's always like, am I going to be in? We've been doing these ones on Zoom. She always she's 6, so she always pokes in and she wants to have. So I'll skip some of this, but I want to get to some of the big stuff. So this is generally when I do a big presentation. And by the way, as we talked about it, if your area wants to host a session, then we can do a Zoom session. Let me know. Like Rugby Michigan wants to do one, we just open it up, we pick a day and time, and then we go ahead and invite that. And then I mean, there is a version that's available online. You can send that out as well, but that it allows us some question and answers. So if they have specific questions, they can ask that as well. So we're going to go ahead and talk about this stuff. So we'll kind of start off a little bit about after it was reorganized. This used to look a little bit different. But what I tell families, and by the way, I can email you this session as a PDF if you want it, so don't worry too much about keeping track of all of this. And especially for the players that are in the room, you're going to see this slide. Don't stress about it. You don't have to remember it. It's mainly here to show you that it's different from other sports, right? So we don't have just like what volleyball or football we have, which is D1, FBS, FCS, D2, whatever. We have all these different things, and it is aligned to what basically governing body that college has chosen to be. So the big ones, NCR, National College Rugby, CRA, which is College Rugby Association of America, and then you have ACRA in there as well, but they only do women's D2. Small college, you have D2 and CR, but D2 also non-NCR. This is a long way of saying I think everything is a little bit in flux and growing, and I think it will smooth out. This year especially was weird because A, because of COVID, and 2, people are still trying to figure out where they fit. Okay? So generally this is what it is, and it's going to get more confusing in this next slide. this is what it looks like right now. Without throwing them under the bus. Literally, USA Rugby had no clue what the numbers were either. When I was like, usually every year, I'm like, hey, can you guys tell me the numbers? They have it in the membership, because membership went to all different places. They're like, we can tell you about senior club, college is a little bit out there. So this, I will give a shout out. Alex Goff at Goff Rugby Report and Jackie Finland at the Rugby Breakdown. They helped me put together all of this because everyone was a little like, I don't know. So that's why the totals are about 414, about 380, because we had programs in here where some teams have registered but then weren't active. So we don't know if they're coming back. There are teams that are not registered, that are maybe still playing. You know, there's some weird stuff happening there. But generally, again, we go back to, when I show this slide to students and families, it's mainly to explain there's this many opportunities. So if you were in the session earlier with Laura, Coach Miller, if someone wants to play college rugby, they can. So that's one of the big messages we want to get across. You know, that the percentage of students that go on usually from high school to a college level intercollegiate play is very small. It's about 2%, so it's really tiny. Here's your opportunity. You want to be a collegiate athlete, you can. And here are the different ways you can do it and the different variations that you can, okay? Any questions about this slide? And since I've got you in here really quick, what divisions are you in? Do you know? Where's Drury in?
We're going to be small college.
You'll be in small college, and what about this? Do you know?
D1 next year.
Okay, all right. Perfect.
We were D2 this year.
Okay. And what I would tell the students, and if you're talking to families, the interesting part or the annoying part is colleges can move, right? So every year they can, so you're going to D1, but you were in
D2.
Okay, so do you just go through a process of applying to move up? Is that what happens?
When?
Basically, everybody in D2 said we had to leave.
Oh,
They didn't want to play, so
You
we
get
had
that.
an option.
so it's a choice.
Well, there
sort
used
of.
to, in the men's side, there used to be a promotional, if you won too much.
Oh.
We were D2 for years, and they bumped us to D1. We got our head beat in, and we're back to D2.
Okay.
You know, that's,
Right.
it's arbitrary. It just,
Yeah. So what I hear a lot from students is they might come in and say, I'm a D1 athlete. I'm going to go play D1. Like, okay. But there's certainly some teams that play in D1 that are not that great. I shouldn't be in D1. There are teams that are in D1 AA that should be in D2. There are, you know, like a lot of those things are determined by their region and who is around them, who's easiest for them to play, things like that. So for the students, and if you're talking to families, let them know, like, please keep your options open because we don't. Now, something that we ask if there's anyone in here who remembers the time it was recent, or when you purchased your home. Anyone do that the last 5-10 years? You guys remember that? So what were the things, did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
What were some things you were looking for when you were buying a home?
Neighborhood,
Yep,
price obviously.
yep,
I want a yard for my dog.
yep,
Rooms.
yep. Perfect. You weren't just like, I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Right? I have a lot of families that'll be like, I want to do one. They're like, okay, what is that? That would literally be me saying like, I want a house with a yard. And you're like, oh, so here's a house, it's a 1-bedroom, and it's, you know, on a cliff, and it looks like it's falling over, but hey, it's got a yard. Would you take that house? Right? No. So definitely you gotta find ways to help them explain. You've got to do more research, and that's on the families, right? Helping them understand this is not a way to go to list, right? Just by saying, oh, every team that's D1A, CRA, that's on my list. And I had a family that I talked to literally 3 days ago, and I said, oh, they're like, oh, we've already got our list. I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, tell me who's on your list, right? Lindenwood, Life, BYU, St. Mary's, Calvo, or something. I was like, okay, like, I already know where this list came from, right? It was like the D1A ranking. You know that BYU is a Mormon university. The students who go there are Mormons. Are you Mormon? The student's like, no, I had no idea. The parents are like, we had no idea. I'm like, do you know what BYU stands for? And you're like, no. Like, okay. So this goes back to, it's literally like saying, let me just buy a house over there because it's got a room and a closet. You know, so I really had to push them to say, I need you to understand you're looking at schools over here. You know, this school has 800 undergrads. You know, and then you've got St. Mary's, which is like 2,500. You've got Berkeley, which is 35,000. None of these make any sense, right? So especially for the students kind of thinking through, what is your criteria, right? Like, what do you want in college, and how do we make sure that you have most of those things, right? So to go back to the house analogy, you figure out like, okay, what is the really big deal breaker? You know, is it the neighborhood? You don't want to drive 3 hours to your work every day, right? Or something like the location, maybe the cost, anything like that. So this is up here, and again, I'll probably change this again in about a month or two. But really making sure you understand that there's options, but really try to focus in what you're looking for in those options, okay? For the women, these are examples of what's happening with the NCAA. I know Laura in the previous session kind of talked about this. But if you are working with young women, or if you have a growing number of women in your area, this is certainly something to push. More families I talk to, I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, my roster is now more split 50-50 of female athletes and male athletes. And it used to be almost all male athletes. The female players were not thinking about how rugby could help them in college or have a scholarship or anything like that. This is an example of how much it's grown, and the ones in red are all new in the last year with more that are coming. Right? So I think being able to say, if you have your outreach meetings or things like that, or letting those coaches know when they're recruiting to build their women's programs, like, hey, did you know that women's rugby is an NCAA rugby sport? It's growing, there's opportunities there, things like that. Any questions about that? Okay. And then these are, again, I update this slide all the time, but you know, there's always new programs that are added. So in general, for boys and for girls, and especially for your regions, that's something you can, you know, I have like a live Google Doc that I just, every time there's a new program, I add to that before I put it to the book. You can, you know, make sure you share that out with your teams. Hey, by the way, did you guys know there's all these new teams that got added? This is opportunity, right? These are the things that I think parents care about, you know, that students care about as well. Would you say your families ask a lot about college, or is it not? No, they do. Yeah. In Michigan, do you feel like it's?
I get more people seeing the opportunity, especially from like the cycle parents and having kids put soccer, no money for basketball, nonstop.
Yep.
They still think their kid needs to scholarship or something.
Yeah.
Play different sports that they can start having.
I'm going to skip ahead, and I'm going to come back. So let's talk about scholarship, because I know that was something that you asked about. And I'll spend a little more time to explain this part. Because last night we only had, like, by the time we got started, it was like 35 minutes, and we were like chopping through everything, so we had a little more time. I think if you're talking to high school athletes, you will really understand like, what does scholarship look like, and you've got college coaches here, so you can explain a little bit more about what it might look like at your school as well. That'll help me, that'll help everyone here. Typically, the way I've seen it is there's multiple ways students get scholarship dollars to discount the overall cost of college. The bulk of the money. So I've had students that do go to school for close to a full ride, close to it. Still paying a little bit, maybe $4,000 or $5,000, which is still pretty dang good.
There's actually a lot more schools with high academic scholarships.
Yes.
That start off
Yes.
at a lower year.
Yep. So think about it a little bit like not like buying a house, but more like buying a car, where you might have a sticker price, and then they're going to be able to kind of discount, cut costs, right, in order to entice students to come. So merit scholarships are going to be the biggest one. So if you've got a student that is a good student, good GPA, good test scores, if they have them, good leadership, good essays, all that kind of stuff, the school can then, from an admission standpoint, discount the cost. Do your schools have like do they go off of just like a straight GPA test score, like an automatic offer, do you know, or is it a little more detailed?
Ours is graphed out to where our
Yep.
biggest GPA is test score, and I can immediately be sitting there with mom and dad and tell them how much merit is going to get just based on of that. Before I even talk about rugby scholarships,
Yep.
we're layering anything anything else, I signed a kid last week, called it $40,000 to go to our school. I got him, $29,500. So, that's pretty doable for
Yeah.
an education, to afford that.
Yeah, perfect. Do you have a graph kind of thing
Yeah,
too?
pretty much. It's like we don't at Marion right now. They don't even do test scores. It's just
Yep.
all GPA.
Yep.
So starting people go, start seeing academic money, and athletic scholarships.
So I think that's a really good point. Do you know where your merit scholarships start? So John was saying like 3.0, like where does
Yeah.
your graph start?
Our graph starts at 2.5.
Okay.
If you had someone in A, you could throw out the test scores if they write a great essay.
Right.
So we can get you in without seeing anything, but I have a graph, I'll show you later. But it
Perfect.
does literally puts a range out there where,
Yeah.
and then I can lobby if I actually had to, to get in.
So normally when I talk about merit scholarships, there are definitely students in the room that are like, well, it's not going to apply to me, right? Like I have a 3.2. We're probably talking about Johnny back there with his 4.5 GPA, right? They automatically take themselves out of the running because they don't think they'll qualify for that. But we're talking about always the key word here is keywords. It depends. It depends what school you're talking about, what they're looking for. And would a 3.2 get you, money at this school? Maybe not. But at this school, you might. So, we kind of go back to still, no matter what, academics plays a huge role in specifically college rugby. It's a huge piece. If I was talking to a football player, a little bit different. Right? I don't think we don't need to worry about it, but it's not a piece of the puzzle. Recruiting a player for football is less about what's happening in the classroom, it is what they're going to do on the field. Rugby is the opposite. So merit scholarships, based on those things that we talked about, that's going to be the key. So for those of you in Michigan and Ohio, obviously it's continuing to spread the message that rugby stuff is great, but if this is a path you want to go, you've got to work hard in the classroom. You need good grades. That's the first thing college coaches do. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I tell players all the time. They're going to look at GPAs, transcripts, things like that.
Well, Nat, I heard you say earlier, set a deadline. Well, I need your FAFSA. I have to have the FAFSA numbers in order for admissions to be supported with this assignment.
Perfect. Good to know. Okay. Rugby scholarships, so that's money that's given to a student. What's your name right here?
James.
James. Okay, so talking to James, right? And we're like, okay, what position do you play? You're a fly half. So let's say Marion's like, we really need a fly half. They look at your film, they look at your stuff, they're like, oh, he would be a game breaker. He would be awesome. They can choose, you correct me if I'm wrong, maybe give you more money than Johnny, who is a wing, and they have enough wings. Right? So they can kind of alter. Would you say that's correct? Like how would you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how would you make decisions on how much money to offer James?
Basically, just some of it's need, some of it is, no matter what, some of it's appearance.
Yeah.
Like they're a police rugby player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, like at least the way I go, we're not a club or a program, so we expect kids to work out and practice 5 days a week, play on Saturday, usually give them Sunday off, and go right back to work. So it's not a club.
Yeah. So ideally, and you mentioned this too earlier about kind of layering those scholarships, right? So the students that are able to get a big discount are finding ways to stack those two together and finding other ways. Same areas that I mentioned in California, they don't have the first one, they don't have rugby scholarship, they have merit scholarship, and then they have an alumni scholarship that for certain players that they really, really want, they know that they need to close that gap. The alumni will come in and say, we'll give you $5,000, $10,000 to get that one student there. So it's not, it's not huge, it's not $100,000, but it might be just enough. The student's getting $15,000 in merit, alumni gives them another $5,000, and that's going to make the total cost cut in half. Any questions about scholarship? So this is what it tends to look like, right? So when you explain it to families, I found that this is helpful just to kind of explain. Most families, I think in the beginning, one of the first questions I have when I sit down with a family is, what is your priority? Some families are super lucky and they'll actually say to me, we don't have like, yes, of course it'd be great if it was lower, but cost is not the priority. Okay, the priority is top academics or location or the rugby program is the priority. That's what's going to drive our son to be successful in college. Right? So they don't care as much about maybe the name brand. It's about this, or they might say it's the name brand. Like it has to be a name that our family knows. And my job is not to be like, it shouldn't, like they can care about it and we can talk about it. So like making sure every family understands their priorities, right? And so if they say, look, our family budget is $20,000 a year. We've got 5 kids, this is the first one. We cannot go above this. This is what we're looking for. And I'm gonna say, okay, can we make this affordable for you? Absolutely. But you can't choose. You can't say I want to pay $20,000 a year, but it has to be in California. And it has to be at top 10 architecture program. It has to be, right? That's literally, and I go back, this is what I go back to saying. So you can steal this from me and tell this. It would be like me saying, I want to live on beachfront property. I want a yard for my dog. I want at least half an acre, and my budget is $400,000. I could get that, but maybe it is going to be in Mississippi. Not Mississippi, that's not my beach. But you know what I mean? Like, I can't choose the location. So you could say I want to pay less than 20. I want a top rugby program, and I want it to be enrollment less than 5,000. Can we do that? Absolutely. Right. So if they can figure out what their priorities are, and those are questions that a student athlete are trying to figure out. Right. What are the things you want? What are I ask students sometimes, what are like the top 5 deal breakers? What is it? Rank. What's the number one thing you want? If we're to get rid of everything else, what's the one thing you'll hold on to and be happy about? This is typically most families, I think, get stumped by that first one. They actually don't have their priorities set. So it's like, we'll let Susie think about it. I'm like, all right, when have you ever let your 16-year-old make a decision? This is the biggest, normally it's the second biggest purchase for your family outside of a home, right? It's a really big commitment for your family, for your student. So, I was just thinking the other day, I wanted to buy sweatpants. I looked at so many reviews of sweatpants on Amazon, right? I was like, ooh, 5 stars. This person said that the fit isn't so great. Right? I'm like looking, okay, well, I'm gonna look, I only want the 5-star sweatpants. I mean, I did so much research for sweatpants, and then I have kids picking colleges just out of a book. No, you need to do research, right? And that means, like looking at video tours, talking to coaches, having Zoom calls, making sure it's a fit. Not everyone gets along, right? You may love this program, but you and that head coach don't get along, it's not going to be fun for you, right? So see if you can do visits, those sorts of things. As a player, have you, what year in school are you?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior.
Yeah.
Are you still looking at colleges?
No, I have them mostly down right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So when you were looking at colleges, what was probably like the top 1 or 2 things you're looking for?
It was based on the majors they provided. I wanted major into visual arts, which is kind of a hard thing to find with rugby programs. So that was what I looked for first, and then location too was very important.
Great. So you sound really organized, right? You're like, I know I want this major. It doesn't matter if I go to this school.
She's a girl.
Huh?
She's a girl.
Yeah. So just, I would definitely set that up a little bit if you start having those conversations about college, about what is it? Okay. Any questions about this? I want to make sure I'm not just talking to you guys. So main things, obviously, always stressing the grades, always stressing if you can, taking rigorous curriculum, right, and then testing. Most things are test optional, test blind, as you mentioned. So that's another factor there. But generally speaking, if they're doing well on these things, you're going to have more offers and then more merit scholarship. Okay? And it's never too late. So I tell my high school coaches all the time, colleges will still look at students if they're making changes in their senior year. Right? So it's never too late to continue to do better.
Karen, what do you think is going to happen with SATs and ACTs?
So I think some schools are going to keep it the way it is.
Okay.
They like seeing the increase in applications and from a more diverse pool. I am seeing that testing is coming back for some populations. So, for example, I know that a lot of schools are bringing testing back for homeschooling. I mentioned we're homeschooling my daughter. She's in first grade, so by the time she goes, I don't know. But for homeschoolers, that's coming back. International students, it's coming back because it's hard to verify, right? So the testing is really there to help college admissions verify what grades are. It's like, oh, you got an A in this class, but on your math SAT, you got 450. That doesn't really match up, right? So the point of testing is really to be an objective way to establish whether or not you do well. So now I am seeing those tests optional. It's going to stay. But what I saw last year's cycle, students that had testing, and if it was good, it was helpful. You were accepted at a higher rate. So I've been telling my students, if you can test. If it's good, send it. If it's not good, don't send it. So it just kind of takes the pressure off, but I would still keep it. So I would still encourage your students. Normally, if it's kind of like that, the process of merit scholarship, a lot of them still use a GPA and test score. Sometimes the test score, if it's good, can help lift the merit.
Seen a lot of super scoring going on.
Yeah.
To help the kids take ACT and compete in that, do it again.
Right.
And so if we can cherry pick their best scores and line them,
Right.
it helps us improve.
Can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it like, okay, so tomorrow there's a combine, right? No one's going to recruit someone off of, oh my gosh, I saw your vertical. You're in, right? Like, let me just look at your vertical. It's like a vertical or a sprint score or, a Bronco or something. It just gives a little more information, right? It's like, okay, I saw your film. Wow, I saw your vertical. I saw your max squat. Or I saw this. It gives me more info versus a kid that has nothing. Test scores are just that. It's additional information. So as long as you encourage your families, like, hey, we just saw Karen this weekend, and if you're having testing available at your school, don't freak out about it. Take it. Do the best you can. It can only help. It's going to be one of the
So at Mary, what they do is, like you got an A, but you didn't take the test, so you will have to take your early entry math classes. If you do really good, then you can be tested out of entry level classes.
Yeah.
So if you do good, you can get out of stuff. If you don't
And
do
then
so good, then
there's stuff
you
like
have to take classes.
the University of California is still playing around with the idea of coming up with their own test, which is like,
Shocker.
no, please don't do it. It's just, I'm hoping they don't, or it's gonna, that's just gonna be, okay. So this is a question I get asked a lot. So the athletic things for students to do, right? So especially for James, you're the one who's in here, who's probably not at the end of, you already don't really know. These are some of the things to start thinking about. One of the first things I would tell all of your students to do is to have a rugby resume. So this is in this book. You can also download it for free off my website, or just Google Rutgers Edge rugby resume. But it is a one-page summary. Now, if you were to fill out recruit forms for these two programs or any of the other programs, it's going to ask for some more information. So the reason I ask, especially as a sophomore, start building the resume early. So then when you're like, oh, I want to fill out a form, you already have everything. You can copy and paste. You're not thinking about, oh wait, what was that team, that one team I played for, what was that coach's information? What was that, I don't know how to gather. Mom, what was that thing I did? You want to make sure you have that all together. Okay? Corporate communication. Coach Miller, who was in here earlier, was talking about something that reminded me. There was a group out in New York. They do, in the fall, they do not a career night, but they basically set up practice. They bring in local professionals, like volunteers, parents, things like that. They basically have a mentoring evening where students come in and they practice having proper communication. So this helps them with jobs, with interviewing. They do review the resume together. They also also have a panel of like some folks are health sciences professionals, some are like legal, some are whatever. And then the students kind of get a sense of like what that might look like. That was a really cool program that they started. It only happens in the fall, and it adds another layer to their rugby programming, which I thought would be interesting if you ever think about it. But it all builds together. It's the students that are comfortable talking to adults. They practice with people they trust, you know, of having a, hi, how are you? You know, like, I'm gonna put you on the spot, James. Like, if you were to talk to Coach here, have you ever met before? Okay, can he introduce himself to you?
Hi there, my name is James Rose. I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm looking to come to your college and play rugby. Nice to meet you.
Any questions for him?
I have lots of questions. I'd like communication lines open, see what we can build over the next couple of years.
Great, great. I know I just totally put you guys on the spot, but that was wonderful, right? You said your name, you said you're interested in this school. You know, some students are like, oh God, I'm so nervous. I don't want to do it. Like, but that's part of this process is going to like actually walk up to a coach at a tournament, at a recruiting event, shake their hand. So let's say you actually do go to state and you find out information at the combine tomorrow. If you see Bevel, right?
Yeah.
You see Coach Bevel. You can go introduce yourself again. Remember me yesterday? I was in that session with Karen. I really learned a little bit more. I looked it up last night. I want to make sure to give you my information, right? Like, what would you think about a student that did that?
Being refreshing.
Yeah, right, right? Because students, I find, are a little bit shy. Or, I mean, what would you say is like, why wouldn't you go up to a college coach? You walk in there, and how do you feel?
I don't know, I'm just nervous.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like you said, shy.
yeah, yeah. You'll get comfortable. I want the students to know too. The college coaches want to meet the students, right? Like they want to meet you. They want to talk.
We're here for them.
Yeah, exactly. Game film, you know, I think the more I would say the last couple of years, I've been surprised how many more students have film. So encouraging your high school teams to have film is helpful for them. How have you found that your teams have been filming pretty regularly, or what do you think? Or is it like depends on the team?
Depends on the team. And it's hard to start if they're not doing it, right? Because it adds another layer of to do. And who's got the equipment? Are we really going to spend $2,000 on a high? It's just something else for a busy coach to worry about. Right? It's often hard.
Yeah. What have you found in Michigan? Do most teams, are they able to film or?
Some do, probably 75%. I urge teams to try it. Just for the coaches to get better. It's beneficial just for the coaches. Obviously, it's for the players.
What do you review a lot of film for recruiting?
Most of them said highlight that I like.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't is that whole thing that
Everyone loves highlight film. Lots of
Everybody's
music.
great in highlights.
Great job.
I was telling everyone, I'm like, I could have put together a highlight film. Some kicking, you know, look at awesome, and then you're like, oh, you didn't know that my team when I was fighting with Karen never kicked. Never, like, you don't see where the ball went, but I mean, I can look like I'm a horrible kicker. So students that are in the room, and obviously not families, if possible, that the game film setup is not what they think. If it's just a full game, that's it. Like, it doesn't have to move and zoom in and have drones. You know, they can figure out a way to have one parent rotate each game. I know in Colorado at Summit, they film every single game because they have a team of dads. That's what they want to do, and they rotate. Like every game, like, you know, John's in charge of this one, and then they just set it up, and then they film it, they upload it on YouTube. They don't touch it, they don't do anything with it, but then all the players can then use it. So it helps all of the players, not just like their one team. And then actually the other teams that play Summit use that film because they know that they're going to use it. So it actually helps like the entire team. And I'm sure there's, as you talk to other coaches, there's other ways to get more film. Overall, obviously, films become pretty critical. Let's see. And then lastly, kind of go back to the reflect on what you want. So always pushing everyone to think through what do they really want in college? Why are they even looking at it? I had a student last week, another one I talked to. The student was very clear on what he wants to major in, what he wants to do as a career. It's fire science. He wants to be a firefighter. It's almost impossible to find a 4-year college with fire science. It's typically a junior college degree. So I put him in touch with Brett Nelson at Iowa Central. So that's where he's going to go because he wants to play pebble, but he knows for sure he wants fire science. It doesn't make sense for him. He was looking at some other schools to get a nutrition degree. And I said, look, you can go do your fire science, you can play there. And if you still want to go do nutrition, you can then transfer and finish your 4 year. But for him, it just didn't make sense right now to go somewhere to do a degree that isn't helping, right? So really thinking through what that is. I mentioned this earlier, this is our newest playbook. So this is kind of a guide. So you have families that are interested. They can always go on my website and purchase this. It walks them through the whole process. If they were working with me, these are the things we're doing. So if they want to do it on their own, this is what we do. So we get a link, you can send it out, things like that. I can give you guys a copy if you want to take a look at it. These are just some resources that I mentioned. And then for all your families, I always offer a free 30-minute consultation. And I'll tell you, when I do that call, tell families, my line is, I'm not here to waste your time and money. You don't need me, you don't need me. Great. If I can offer you some advice, help you through the process, great. Because I'll tell you, 90% of families do not need something like me. They're like, look, I want to go to the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, right, with snacks. Do you need me for recruiting? Probably not. Do you need me maybe for applications? Maybe. We'll talk about that. But, if they're applying to Cal State Chico, they don't need me, right? That application is no essay, it's a straight application. We'll give them some feedback on what the colleges look like and maybe rank them, but they don't need me. So I think some families get a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, how much work do we need? If their list has really nothing to do with rugby, they're just going to apply, like a regular student, right? Probably not, right? Okay, any questions? And then I'm going to do a little bit of time. If you want to save the date and I'll send this out, if you're not on my newsletter list, make sure you sign up on my website. On February 1st, I'm doing a webinar with 3 coaches. These are women's coaches for Vassar College, Colgate, and Claremont colleges. I like to do these every month or 2. These are kind of what I call hidden gems, or just programs that some students don't think about that are established rugby programs. These ones are small colleges, so I wanted to kind of highlight those. And then online, you can see some other ones that I've done with some other programs. Yeah. Okay. Questions? Anything?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, is it ever too late to, I've got, it's second semester now, we've got seniors, and I'm having girls saying, I'm not going to play college rugby, but I know that a lot of the colleges are already, giving out scholarship money. Is it too late as a second semester senior?
You're gonna.
Mixed answer.
It's gonna be, it depends. For some of the more established programs, maybe. But for a lot of them, no, it's not too late. And some of them, we were just talking, you can put out offers till the first day of school, until August. So I think so let's say it's January, it's senior year, and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about it. The first step is obviously come up with your targeted list. So let's say they come up with their 5 colleges, they need to start contacting them now. But it is not too late. There are still, like Coach Miller, who's just in here, she is still recruiting seniors. Right? So most of the women's colleges, their pool of players is so small, but they're still looking, and they will keep looking. Are you still recruiting seniors?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're still recruiting seniors too, right? So, I would say club programs, but those obviously those deadlines are gone, which are gone. Does that answer your question?
I think so. That's, that's kind of what I told them. I was like, it's never too late. I mean, money might have dried up at whatever schools you're looking for, but it's still fair to try.
And sometimes you don't know. So what happens, some schools will put out offers already, but you remember they offer 5 students, 4 of them could choose to go elsewhere. That money can actually come, they can still give each other. So I would still encourage, especially for seniors, like there's still opportunities. Keep, you've got to try. Some students are like, no, I don't want to try. It's that like, they don't want to hear the no. I'm like, look, the worst they can say is no. We don't have an offer for you, but it's not going to kill you. Like you can still try. We just talk. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question about merit scholarships.
Yeah.
So I was talking to one of my schools about it, and they said that specifically for merit scholarships, they can only focus on one area, like rugby or whatnot. But merit scholarships go as far as like your GPA or like talents like art and like rugby. Is there a way that they can kind of like overlook all of those and use that to like help them come to a decision? And I know there's a cap too for merit scholarships, right? Yeah.
So every college's financial aid office works independently, right? So when they review your original, your profile plus your FAFSA or whatever, right, and they come up with an offer, usually you get that offer fairly early. It will come with your acceptance, right?
Yeah.
You can have it reviewed, you can appeal it, and you can continue to appeal it if you want. So for example, let's say you applied in the fall, you got your acceptance, you got your offer here in January, but between the time you applied in the fall and now, let's say you won a big art award or the GPA was higher, you got another test score, you can resubmit it and say, I'd like to have my financial aid offer. They can, same with them, right? They put offers out, it doesn't mean everyone's accepted it. So if they have money coming back, they can potentially offer more. Sometimes it's nice to ask after May 1st. So May 1st is when everyone decides where they're going to enroll, right? So your school, wherever you decided to go, they're like, oh, we accepted 100 students, but only 75 are actually coming. Those 25 offers, the money's kind of back. Can we reevaluate? Oh, you did win that award. Oh, you did that. We can give you a little more. So they can always review it, and every year they can review it. So if you did something special and the GPA did this or that, you can always go back to financial aid and have them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Question. It doesn't have to be about rugby, it can be about college in general.
Is your service just specifically for college, or do you help with like other random colleges that are available?
So typically with my students, my focus is on the rugby piece. I will encourage them to look at other scholarships, but to be really honest, generally speaking, the bulk of their scholarships are going to come from that institution. I mean, if they want to apply for their like local Rotary Club scholarships, their local Kiwanis, stuff like that, they can. If they need help with essays for those, I will help them. But I don't think it'd be rare for me to be like, oh, you got to apply for that Coca-Cola something scholarship.
Like weird scholarships where you can get scholarships from 5 to 10.
Right. So, I mean, I would encourage them to tell them which websites to go to that are verified, not scammy. Like, you should never pay to look for a scholarship. You should go look on your own. So